Family Bible Time. We're going to start with our quiz this week, which is on creation from Genesis 1. How many days was the world created in? Seven days. Who created the world? God. Which day did God create humans? Day 6. Which days did God create seas and skies and birds and fish? Days 2 and 5. What were the first 3 days about, and what were the second 3 days about? Days 1 to 3, preparation, and days 4 to 6, population. So, our story this week is another story of creation from Genesis 2. So, let's get started. There wasn't any trees or plants or vegetation on the world at this time. So God made the Garden of Eden, a paradise for people to live in. In this garden, he made lots of plants and trees, but in particular, he made 2 different trees. One, the tree of life, and the other, the tree with the knowledge of good and evil on it. And God decided to create a man. This man was called Adam. He was put in the garden. Now, God wanted to have a mate for Adam, a partner, someone to help look after the garden and be with Adam. And there were no other creations, no other things that God created that suited Adam. So God decided one night to take the rib of Adam and form a woman called Eve. And Adam saw Eve and felt so in love with her. Now, Adam and Eve at this point felt no shame whatsoever. Later on, Eve was walking around the garden and Adam was somewhere near. She was walking near the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, which God had commanded them to not eat from, but they could eat from any other tree around. Now there was a serpent who was very sneaky and cunning, who came from this tree and told Eve that she should eat the fruit of the tree. Now Eve said, "We were told we aren't to touch the tree, because if we do, we will die, as God commanded." And the serpent tricked Eve and said, No, God is worried you will become like him if you eat from this tree." And so eventually Eve took the apple from the tree and took a bite of it. And her eyes were open and she had knowledge of good and evil. And she gave it to Adam, and Adam took a bite of it. And he gained the knowledge of good and evil. And they now started to feel shameful about themselves. Right then, God started walking in the garden. And so Adam and Eve hid from God. They started seeking out a place to hide. God came to where they were and started asking after, "Where are you, Adam?" Adam eventually showed himself to them, to God, and started saying that it was all because of Eve is the reason he ate of the fruit after telling them. And then eventually God started talking to Eve. Eve started blaming the serpent. And so God dealt out punishments to both of them and to the serpent. He punished Adam and Eve by kicking them out of the garden. And he punished Eve further by saying that you will bear children and it will be painful. He punished the serpent by saying, "You shall crawl on the ground and not have your legs anymore." And one day there will be someone who will step on you as you bite them. And that is our story this week. So, this story is all about human beings being created, and it's told from the perspective of humans being the focal point of creation that God made and being placed in this garden, which was paradise. It was perfection. It was the place where they could walk and be with God all the time. However, they went and made a mistake. They did the wrong thing. They did not follow what God wanted them to do. And they chose a sinful action. They chose a wrong action, which is where you disobey God, in my opinion. That's what I define sin to be. Going against God, disobeying God. That's what Adam and Eve did here. Now, whenever I think about this story, I'm always reminded that we are all sinful. We all go against God. We all do wrong things. We can't escape that. But the key thing to remember is that God did not leave them once they left the garden. God was with Adam and Eve, as we'll find out as we progress through the story of Genesis. So even when we do sinful things and go against God, He is always there for us when we go to Him. God never goes away from us, but we go away from God. And so the challenge is, are we willing to repent and say sorry for the things that we have done that are sinful and go back to God? That's the challenge from this explanation this week. I wonder what your favourite part of the story was. I wonder what your least favourite part of the story was. I wonder what we could take out of the story and still have the whole story. I wonder what actions you think are sinful. Okay, so the prayer activity this week is for you to write down some things that you have done that are sinful and going against God, and for you to chat to God and repent of those things that you have done. And then you can also catch from God what He's saying about you. You can ask God to say, what do you think about me? What do you love about me? What do you like about me? Thank you very much for joining me this week with Family Bible Time. I hope that you learned something new, and I hope that the challenge of thinking about what you have done that is wrong and how you can repent and turn back to God is one you can take with you daily and do daily. So I challenge you to constantly be saying sorry to God and repenting for our sinful actions. Thank you for joining me this week. Have a great time. Bye-bye.